Okay, we're gonna do another oil pastel project today. So last week it was something like a tree, but this time we're gonna do more of a nighttime sunset scene. So the colors you'll need, the 12 colors, hopefully you have all of them because we will be using most of them today. White, peach, pink, red, orange, yellow, green, dark green, blue, purple, brown, and black. So I'll keep them up here and I'll tell you which ones I'll be using. You will also, if you want, you can use a pencil because that's what we'll sketch with, and a piece of paper that's oriented portrait mode, so not sideways. We could do it sideways, but this image is tall, so let's use a tall sheet of paper. Paper I'm using today is Bristol paper, but if you have mixed media, that is fine too. It'll just be a little bit more grainy. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to take our pencils and sketch in the main components. So looking at this image here, we have some trees on the left. We have a ground that covers up maybe 1/6 of the piece. And then we also have some clouds. Most of it will be the sky. The good thing about oil pastels is that they're really good for skies and large gradients. So with the pencil, let's sketch. I will start with the trees. Don't have to sketch out every leaf, just the general shape is fine. Make it darker so you guys can see. There's a little hole in here. I like to keep that. So that's the shape of the tree. Start sketching the tree, and when you're done the tree, you can just really quickly sketch in the horizon down here. It's about 1/6, can't even see, of the whole length of your page. So you can imagine dividing your page into sixes and then having the bottom part. Kind of goes up at the end. So sketch out the horizon line. And in the horizon line, you can't really see it clearly on here, but there are 3 different sections. The mountain in the back, and then we have the midground field, and then we have the foreground grass. So divide this into 3 sections. The mountains will be the smallest because it's further away. And then the bottom, you'll have the grass. And try to keep your sketch light. I think this image can use a round moon. You see this little white dot here? It's a little too small. So let's put a moon in the center of our sky. Very lightly. And as for the clouds, I usually just leave them alone because we'll use our pastels to draw them in. And I'll wait for a little bit before we start the pastels. And before we get started, if you want to get a paper towel, this is good for like wiping any residue on your paper so you don't get a color you don't want. Okay, and let's get started with the sky. So the first thing that I'm going to look at is what color the top will be. It's kind of purple, but most of it is blue. So we'll be taking our blue pastel and filling in the whole space, or most of the sky actually. You can leave, don't shade in, don't color in the trees or the field. So starting from the very top again, remember to press hard. And when I'm coloring, I like to go in small circles because I want to fill out all these tiny white spots.
Excuse me, is it crayons, not oil paint?
This is oil pastel. So crayons are fine too.
I've got paint.
Paint?
Yeah, that's
You
okay.
can still follow along with the paint.
I'll just watch, okay.
And I might be wondering, where do I want to stop with this blue? If I look at this image, I'm going to press really hard all the way down to about here. So I'll draw this faint completely arbitrary line to tell me, oh, I need to stop pressing too hard once I get to here, because this is a lighter blue and we can mix it with some other colors. And it's very hard to mix or blend if you already have a very saturated color. Just gonna keep going all the way down until I hit this line. And for those who are a little bit ahead, what we're gonna do next is create this gradient here. So you kind of want to blend this or fade it out a little bit. So pressing medium hard until down here. Just to create more of a natural transition between the different colors. So do all of this across. Actually gonna create a little border around my moon so I don't accidentally color it in. Okay, and now I will be starting the gradient. And I actually think maybe it'd be best if we also drag this down a little bit more. Because if you look across the line of where the clouds start, it's actually quite low. They're not too big. That means you can also bring this medium down a little bit as well. So let's do that. And remember to take breaks if your hand is feeling tired. And the next step, I'll just tell you that we will actually be using the peach color to blend this area. So not white, but peach. The reason being that because it is a sunset, there is some yellow and peach tones. So we're going to be using this color. Let me just clean the edge. And if you're already ahead of me, remember blending with a lighter color, we always move from the lightest area into the darkest. Because if we start all the way up here, we're going to drag the blue down and then it'll become too dark and we can't go back when it's too dark. So always take your lightest color and start from wherever the lightest is. So in this case, it would be at the bottom. So from the bottom, go up. Are you ready? Okay, so take the peach color now. And we're going to blend the sky in from the bottom. It's gonna look a bit weird, like a gray, but it will make sense when we blend it all in. Now I'm going to put the peach color aside. And this step is optional, but I like to do it taking the white and going over the lightest parts of the sky. Just a thin layer of white. So right around the edge of the clouds, just take the white and add a little bit more brightness to it. It's barely visible, but it makes a little bit of difference. My white just broke. That's it, just a little bit. Not pressing too hard. So the next step will be the clouds. So I'm just going down the sky. Next part will be the clouds, and for that we'll be using two different colors for the base. So blue and purple. So we're actually going to take the blue first. And kind of just roughly color in where the clouds are, but leave a little bit of space for all these different beautiful colors like the orange. You want to keep that. So don't put blue in the middle. Just kind of when you're sketching, go around the edges, the clouds, and then this nice yellow lining, we want to keep that as well. So only where you see this blue purplish color is where we're going to put our blue. And if you want, you can sketch out where the linings are. Kind of create a barrier. The wider, the better, because if you go too thin, it's just harder to control. You can always go back on the dark colors, but you can't go back on the light color. So right now I'm just telling myself this is where the yellow will go, and I will not color inside. There's also these orange circles. Now I'm just outlining the clouds. So now I'm just making sure that I haven't missed any spots. There's a large orange patch up here, the yellow lines in the middle, and then there's a few spots in here, but I think it's a little bit more forgiving if we forget about these ones, because the main point of focus is this orange patch and the yellow lines. All right, and whenever you're ready, let's start shading in the clouds. You can start anywhere you'd like. Oh, and I forgot about this little hole where the tree is not really there. And take the same colors as before. So blue is filling that spot in. Then the other color was peach. I'm just roughly filling that spot in because I forgot about it. Anyways, back to the clouds. If you have finished with the blue, you may take your purple and kind of create not necessarily a shadow, but add some new colors into the clouds. Because if we're looking at it right now, it looks a little bit flat. I like to put my purple at the bottom of the clouds, so around this area. Just barely, because I don't want to turn the clouds into all purple, because purple is very, very saturated. Notice how it makes the clouds look a little bit more, give them a bit more contrast. Going to blur the edges of this a little bit. Okay, and if you're done with that, I'm going to put my blue and purple away and take out yellow, red, oops, and white. Sorry, yellow, orange, and white. Another color you can also take out would be pink. That would be for the last step. So with my yellow, I'll first go in where the lines are. So let me just clean this first. There's some dark spots on it. And just like that. It's okay if it looks a little bit green because in the picture it does look green. And uh, when you have yellow and blue together, oftentimes edges will become green. So it's very, very normal. I think the green looks nice. And if you want some spots to become a little bit more of a creamy yellow, you can take the white and just add it on top. If you want, you can also take the white. If you have an edge on the white crayon, you can add some of it to the bottom where the city lights are coming up from. Just at the bottom. Next, we will take our orange. And because the Crayola oranges are very orange, we're not going to apply it too hard initially because we will need to use the white and orange together to get this light orange. So with the orange, it's gonna lightly shade in. Once I've placed my orange, I will take the white, make sure it's clean. So I'm just wiping it on the towel and blending from the orange into the blue. So not blue into orange, but orange back there. And if you think it's not orange enough, you can always add more orange. Now would be a good time to use a pink. So if you're going to use pink, the reason why we're using pink is to blend out the edges between the blue and the orange. And if there's a little dust or residue all over your paper, you can brush it off, or I like to just tap it. And I think the next step of the clouds is my favorite. So I'm gonna take this blue over here. You can keep these colors on the desk. But you see these tiny little clouds that's come out into the sky. We're going to be adding those in. So the first one I see is this tiny blue one over here. With this blue, just horizontally drag my pastel across to create the impression of a cloud. And also over here, there's this wee tail that's sticking out. So let's do that. And all along this edge, we have these random faded clouds. So everything that's in this area, all the clouds will be done with a blue pastel. And up here later, we will be using purple. But let's use blue first and sketch in these clouds. So small, side to side, and a little bit circular motion here. And there's this one. And there's some over here too. This one. And this one. They can also be up to you. Make them random. I think they look better. Now I'm going to take purple and add a little bit more shadows to these clouds as well. And there's also this huge cloud up here. So I'm going to take the purple and actually test if it will look nice on the corner over here. I think it's pretty good. So let's add some purple. You don't want to fill out all of the blue, leave some blue, but wherever there's a shadow, just put in some purple there. Next, we will draw the cloud that's on the very top. So its shape is kind of like goes down, goes back up, and it fades away on the left. Okay, and just lightly shade in the purple. There's some tiny little stray clouds on the left side. And if you would like to add some color to the edges of the clouds, you can take some pink and just go along the edge, the bottom edge of the clouds, because the sunlight is coming up that way. So this time the highlight will be at the bottom of the clouds. Just taking this pink, it's barely noticeable, but once again, it does make a difference. And the last final touch to the sky that we will add is a little bit of a white glow halo around the moon. So how we're going to do that is we're going to take the white, and if you have a moon, add a little bit of white going around the moon. Because when we look at the moon, it emits some light around the edges, or at least in our eyes. So let's recreate that effect and just fade it out when you reach the outside. Just going around the moon with a white. And that is it for the sky. The last part we have to do is all the stuff in the foreground. So the trees, and then we'll do the mountains. Actually, the mountains first. Always work from far to foreground. So whenever you're ready, take a purple and the darkest green you have. These two will be for your mountains. So this strip of land in the back. I'm going to take my purple first and press hard for this. And there's some tiny trees over here, but we can just ignore that for now. And so it is a little too purple. That's why we have the green to offset the reds in here. So take your green now and go over it. And there are your mountains. So just purple and green. Next, the field that's in the middle. So this kind of yellowish brown. For this one, you can, let's see, you can either use brown and a little bit of maybe yellow, but let's do purple and yellow. So for this section here, we'll actually need to do the purple first. So, but not too hard this time, just lightly. So we're going to shade in this part. Why purple? Because purple and yellow are complementary colors. And when you put them together, you get brown. Can I add a little bit more purple? And now with your yellow, blend that all in. If you want to make it darker, just add more purple and then blend it out later with some yellow. So I'm taking the purple again, just darkening up some spots on this field. Mostly near the bottom where there's this dark strip. And the final bottom layer, we're going to use the light green and purple. So for the bottom, we'll be using light green and purple. So I'll fill this up with light green first. And it'll all come together when you take your purple and also press really hard. So I'm going to start in this corner. And I think we could use a little bit more of this dark green. So for this, we started off with the light green and added some purple, but you can also add some more green if you think it's not green enough. And a trick you can do if you think it's not dark enough, you can take the black and add some light streaks across the place you think needs to be more dark. I wouldn't press too hard because black is very very permanent. So we almost never really use black. But once you've sketched it out, you can take purple or any other color and blend it out. So I'm adding some black at the very bottom. And then blending it out with a purple. Okay, and the last step, maybe not the last, is the tree. So how I like to go about doing trees is if I zoom in on this image, you can see there's this edge of green. You might use this green just around the edges of the tree. So first clean the edge or clean the crayon. And I'm just gonna go around the edge of this white empty space here and add this green outline. See the green outline? Just like that. This is because when we see the light coming in from behind the tree, from the sky, although this seems very dark and black, there's still that hint of color. Just around the edge where the tree touches the sky. And sometimes you can also add little bits of green inside the tree because, there's these holes where there's no leaves. So another one might be up here. Because later we'll be going over all of this with in black. So whatever shape these blobs, tiny little dots are, it doesn't really matter. So wherever I put these is where I think the light is coming through the leaves. Like this one is this, and then there's some holes up here. This one is this hole, and then this one is this hole. And this is completely random. And with my black, we're going to shade in this tree. And my strokes will follow the direction of the leaves. So instead of going sideways, I will now go upwards or down and up instead of left and right. So down and up. And when you're using the black, it's okay to leave a little bit more white spaces in between because once again, this is a tree, so there will be holes. Just on the edges, I like to tap. Tapping the black will give me these tiny leaf shapes. And when I'm filling it, I can shade it in. Just tapping along the edge. And I think here might be a little bit darker, so let's do the blending technique. So add a little bit of black and you can blend it out with a purple. we're pretty much done. However, if this is optional, I like to add some of those, those electric towers. What are those called? Transformers? The little where the wires come from and the electricity. So could have some of those posts. Just add some detail in the foreground so it doesn't look too flat. So what I'm talking about, for example, is here's another image. So one of these things, you could have the lines going up or going down, but I'm going to have mine in the corner. Kind of about this tall, going down that way. Just have them going into the distance. There's 3 lines, so very lightly taking the edge of my black pastel, something like that. And the last thing you can add is maybe these trees. So I do these trees is I go left and right really quickly, all the way up. Scratching from left to right, and then you can also take some green to blend it out. Here are the trees. And that is it for today. Thank you.
Well, the power lines are a very nice touch, Jane.
Thank you. Yeah, I was